Welcome guys to day 2 of the podcast. I'm Amir and with me I have Sumi here.
Hey guys.
Guys, a quick recap about part 1 of the podcast. Which one we had discussed what is NLP, what is the example that Sumir had used in his article, the basic pillars for observation. So Sumir, in your article number 1, you had mentioned about life-changing events.
Correct.
Can you tell what life-changing events it is?
So what I meant to say is that, we face a lot of dilemmas in our life. Dilemma basically is a situation where I'm unable to take a decision or I'm unable to act. It could be with a personal relationship, it could be with work, it could be with family, it could be with anything. And we are faced with a predicament and we are supposed to take a decision. On both sides, there are difficult choices to make.
Yeah.
If it's easy, it's all
It's
fine.
all like 50-50.
It's like a 50-50 or one weighs over the other. But there are other circumstances and we find it very difficult to actually take a call. So our mind starts going into a spin or into a tizzy and we are unable to act. We are unable even to think correctly.
We are unable to choose what is right, what is wrong.
Correct. So let's take a college student or let's take somebody who's in school and he now wants to pick a course because he needs to get into, let's say, a professional education, a professional college where he's going to make a career with little counseling available. He's not able to make a choice. Does he want to get into science? Does he want to get into kind of engineering? Does he want to get into computer sciences? Does he want to get into accounting? So there's a whole bunch of choices he needs to make and each one of them has got pros, cons, benefits, drawbacks and he's unable to make a choice. And then we have, let's say, our parents pulling us in one direction, friends pulling us in the other direction. One course is going to be more fun, the other one is going to be more intense. And we end up in something known as analysis paralysis. Okay. So you analyze a thing to such an extent where you're unable to take a decision. You keep on analyzing the situation without moving forward. So these are typical dilemmas that we face on a day-to-day basis.
What you had mentioned in the article is the fear of unknown.
The fear of the unknown, exactly. What lies next? What comes next? If I do this, potentially could happen. If I do this, this potentially could happen. So we are unable to take that leap or take that step which will lead us to the next. The other big example, especially in the Indian context, is whole thing about getting married. Who do I get married to? Somebody from my community, somebody who's within the social circle. So there are so many factors. And then families in India play a very, very big role in deciding in the entire marriage, how the marriage is going to be conducted, who's going to be invited, what functions you're going to have, which priests are going to officiate. And each one of them is a dilemma. Because if you do one thing, some other people will get affected. If you invite this set of people, another set of people are going to get affected. So there's a whole bunch of things that actually come together. And these are again typical dilemmas that we face. The reason I'm saying this is because we Indians are very, very weak and we don't know how to draw the line and we don't know how to say no. We are very polite. We are needlessly polite. We often say one thing, but at the back of our mind, we mean something else. So all of these things are the dilemmas that we face. We'd like to do this, but for fear of, let's say, social ostracization or social opinions, we tend not to do what lies in our heart.
So in this kind of situations, how can we use NLP?
Very easy, actually. NLP sounds, it's a lot of jargon, but it's really very simple. NLP is nothing but going down to the brass tacks. What motivates you? What drives you? You put yourself in the center and you analyze yourself and say, this is what I really want to do. This is who I really am. And the techniques of NLP, as I said previously, not only help us to manage a situation where you're supposed to communicate or interact with somebody else, but it also helps us to analyze ourselves. So that's the way NLP is used. It's a very deep, it's a very vast subject and we are merely scratching the tip of it. Or it's just the tip of the iceberg. But it's a very interesting topic and I'd urge everybody to go much deeper into it. You'll come away a lot richer in terms of knowing how to handle situations that you face on a day-to-day basis.
Battles of mind.
Battles of the mind.
It is very interesting because how your mind battles around all the thoughts. So I want to give how to face those battles.
Everything is made or is destroyed in the mind. Even before you act, it's your nerve centers, it's your neuro system that's actually triggering an action. So it's the nerves in your brain that are actually, it's this huge machine. It's a computationally intense machine. It assimilates all the necessary information that is available and then starts processing. Now, unfortunately, the processor is me. The mind is accepting all the information, and now you, as a so-called cerebral person, needs to use that information in the best possible way to take the right steps. That's when your mind starts going into a spin, into a tizzy, and that's where the battles in the mind begin.
That's why you call it NLP.
The battles of the mind. Actually, you feel more pain in the mind than physically. A lot of top doctors, top surgeons have said that patients who have their mind together, who have control on their mind, heal a lot faster. Because your mind is sending signals to the body saying heal. But if your mind is traumatized, your healing process is going to be a lot longer, right? You're a doctor.
Yeah, correct.
You know how it works.
Yeah.
You know how chemicals and drugs and stuff like that help. So all the drugs that you use are merely a stimulant for your mind to start acting and send the right signals to the right parts of the body to process that chemical or that medicine to help it to work on you.
So in medical field, how mind works, I'll tell you a quick story how mind works. So once a person was sentenced to life and they were gonna kill him by poison.
Lethal injection.
Not lethal injection also.
Okay.
Poison, drink of the poison. So the person was given distilled water. So in the fear that he is drinking poison, like, I'm gonna die, and it was not a poison.
It was not poison.
It was just a distilled water,
Right.
and he died.
Because the mind said
Because
that
the mind
you're
was sending that, this is a poison, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die.
The same thing happens when patient who, what do they call those patients? Hypochondriac.
Hypochondria.
Very often, doctors kind of get patients who come to them who are chronically ill, or they believe in their minds that they're chronically ill. And what do we call them? Hypochondriac. So the hypochondriacs believe they're ill. Until they don't go and visit a doctor, they are not able to get well when there's actually nothing wrong with them. So what do these doctors do? They give them, back in the day, my doctor used to give us 3 white sachets with 3 different types of tablets, and he'd write on it 1-1-1, which means you have this tablet 3 times a day, morning, noon and night. Very often the doctor would give what is called a placebo. It's not medicine. It's completely harmless. It's completely inert. You can consume it and has absolutely no effect. But because you've gone to the doctor and because your mind is now telling you, oh, I've gone to the doctor and the doctor has prescribed medicine to me, I will become well. When actually there's nothing wrong with the guy. That again is an example of a battle of the mind. Now coming to something even more profound is the battles in the mind of Arjuna. He's got all of these things in the mind. Oh my God, I've got to fight my relatives. I've got to do this. How can I fight with them? And he comes up with a whole bunch of reasons why he should not fight. On the face of it, if you don't go deeper into it, if you don't look at things like dharma or karma or his duty, you will think that he's talking like a nobleman. He's very noble. He's so concerned about people who are in front of him. So what are the 2 or 3 things which are very profound that he says? There's so many, but 3 big excuses. 1, he says, what's the point of inheriting a kingdom after taking the lives of my relatives? All the money in the world, all the power in the world has no meaning when my relatives are going to be killed at my own hand. That's one very powerful argument. So on the face of it, we as innocent bystanders or somebody who's reading what Arjuna is saying or hearing what Arjuna is saying will think, oh, Arjuna is a very elevated human being. He's got the concern of his, relatives in his heart. But we'll see later how that's not the right way to act because of very valid reasons. The next, and this is even more profound. What he says is that by killing all the males in the opposing army, the women and children will be left destitute. They will have no protection. And when women and children are left without any male support, they fall into the wrong kind of association, the wrong kind of company, and to survive, they may take up the wrong things to do, which is not good for the general progeny and for the general population. Very, very profound. Now he talked about money. He doesn't want a kingdom because he's killed his relatives. Then he's saying, oh, all the women and the children will be left unprotected. That's a very powerful one. How can you deny that logic? And then he says other stuff. He says, I may be a hero. I may be a great swordsman. I may be a great archer. I may be a great warrior. My name will get tarnished because I've gone and killed so many people who are known to me. All of this is no use. I will not fight. This is the battles that are going on in Arjuna's mind. Now think about stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis and now compare, even though that may have been a very grave situation. For example, we've not fared well in our exams. We need to break that news to our parents. Typically, what do? We procrastinate. We try to make all kinds of excuses. We try to make all kinds of justifications and we delay delivering the bad news to our parents because we don't know how our parents are going to react. Or we are afraid that our parents are not going to take it in the right way. They are not going to be conducive with this outcome. Whereas the simplest thing to do is for you to go and say it up front. Look, shit has happened. I'm sorry. I'm going to try again later, harder.
Have you ever had this experience?
Oh, I've done some very stupid shit. So my mom worked very hard at educating me and studying with me and making me study and making me have a routine. I owe a lot to my mother because she spent quality time with me. One year, I stood 13th in a class of about 40-50 people.
From first you came 13th?
Not first, in the top 5, I came 13th. I'm out of the 5. I'm out, first of all, out of the top 3 is a bad thing. Out of the top 5 is also bad. But 13 is like, whoa, I was so scared. And I felt bad and guilty that I hadn't performed. You know what I did? I removed the 1 in my report card. And because I was a kid, it was a very stupid forgery job.
How old were you?
I was in the 6th. I did this.
From 5th you were so naughty.
I went home and I couldn't do a professional job, right? It was not digital. I couldn't Photoshop. It was on paper. It was a pen. Somehow or the other, I scratched that out. I went and showed my mom. Mom, I stood 3rd. Side. My mom obviously saw through it. I want to come to school and meet your teacher. And now I'm going to pee in my pants. I'm so scared. But my mom's a tough cookie, man. She says, nothing doing. I'm coming to see your teacher. And she takes me to school and exposes me in front of my teacher. That teacher, God bless her soul, she's no more. She was so nice. She was so kind. She says, ma'am, please go home. I'll deal with it. And she took me aside, put a hand on my shoulder, and she takes me aside and she says, why did you do this? It's not worth it. You've troubled your mom. You must have been embarrassed because your mom has come over here. So this is an example. It's something that I've done and I know that it's wrong. But I found it so difficult to tell my mom that instead of coming 3rd or in the top 5, I've come 13th and I didn't know how to convey this to my mother.
What was the most difficult thing you wanted to convey to a person?
So the most difficult thing, now there's nothing difficult for me to convey. I can convey the worst possible news with an absolute straight face.
Because of NLP.
Because of that. But I'll tell you the toughest thing that I have ever done. I was in this global bank. It was a strange one. It was a tricky situation because one of my boys who worked with me in Singapore proposed that I go and work for this bank. And he sent my CV to one of the top management guys. That guy felt very threatened. So you know what he did? He took my CV in front of my junior or my colleague. He tore my CV in half and threw it in the dustbin. So I didn't even get a shot at that job.
No, if someone...
Many months later, listen to the fun.
It piss you off, someone doing that?
I didn't even know till much later. Now, many months later, this same guy has given my CV to another head of department. So he takes my CV and he goes to the CEO. The CEO looks at my CV. He said, I want him and I want him now. I got the job. Over a period of time, the guy who had torn my CV and thrown it in the dustbin, this is what they call full circle, fate, karma, whatever you call it. Life is now made to work under me. That's not it. He's a poor performer and I am told by my boss, you need to terminate him. So my boss, this guy who's going to be terminated and myself, we go out for lunch. And over lunch, I'm supposed to tell him, you're out. That's the first time in my life I ever terminated. I am terminating actually who's a peer. He's not even junior to me. On paper, he's reporting to me, but he's at the same level as I am. That was the first tough, hard corporate decision that I ever took.
How did you convey the message to him?
I hummed, I hawed, I hedged. Then I got kicked under the table by my boss saying, get on with it. And then it was done. So once I said it, it was okay. I'll honestly say, my hand on my heart, I lost sleep for a month because of that decision. Because that guy was very old and there's no way in hell he was going to get another job that was at that senior level. So the battle in my mind was that what will he do? How will he sustain? How will he run his family? What are his obligations? His source of income. I'm cutting off his source of income. How can I do something? This was a job. I was given a command by my commander-in-chief. He says, shoot. And I'm supposed to shoot. And I shoot. And I'm losing sleep over that. That was the toughest thing I ever did. But after that, of course, I was sent to counseling.
Seriously?
Yeah. But you talk to colleagues, peers, senior people. And they told me, hey, listen, this is how it works. We are a company. We have to be profitable. We need to make sure the best people are on board. And you did what you needed to do. So what's the big deal? It's exactly the same thing. So this is the toughest thing that I ever did. After that, I've never batted an eyelid to take the hard step. For me, it's a cinch. I just put all the variables down and say, this is the right thing to do. End of story.
I have a question which all of us may have. What do we do at times when we are unable to handle the situation by ourselves?
So there's 2 or 3 different ways you can do this. So what do you typically do when you're confused?
I ask for help.
Absolutely. And asking for help is the right thing to do, but people even hesitate to do that because they don't want to be embarrassed, they feel awkward, they don't know how to present their problem, they feel that they'll be judged. So there's a lot of things that prevent people from talking.
But actually the main thing people, they think it will show their weakness.
Absolutely, which people don't want to project.
Yeah.
Because we all want to be these macho people, we know it all, but actually internally we are in turmoil. So when that happens, if you're that averse to asking for help is the right thing to do. Of course, the important thing is, who do you ask for help? You always ask for help from a person A who's more learned than you, who's gone through similar experiences, and who's got the intellectual capability to guide you without judging you. And you don't want the person to direct you. You want the person to tell you how to handle the situation and present all the options available to you.
Opinion.
Opinion, mentorship, whatever you call it.